The following is a presentation of the Redskins Broadcast Network. The legacy of Washington Redskins football, built on the blood, sweat, and tears of great players and coaches over the years. A legacy of strength, honor, tradition. A legacy grounded in decades of gridiron excellence, piece by piece, brick by brick. The legacy's foundation is solidified by those who've achieved the game's ultimate individual honor, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The legacy's foundation is upheld by early pioneers who are the bedrock of the franchise and backstopped by some of the game's all-time greats. This is the legacy, Hall of Famers of the Washington Redskins. (1937), the team's first year in Washington, D.C., along with rookie quarterback Samuel Adrian Baugh. A good year for both. The Redskins would win their first world championship. Baugh would earn a new name.
One passing threat is Slinging Sammy Baugh, who made history at Texas Christian University. This is the grip, with fingers spread wide, that gives the maximum control in passing. Sammy spots the receiver as he draws the ball back behind his ear and lets it fly.
When owner George Preston Marshall drafted Baugh, he was looking for more than a quarterback. Marketing Baugh as the NFL's answer to John Wayne, Marshall created the league's first bona fide ticket-selling superstar, even if Baugh was really more farm boy than cowboy.
I could ride a horse, but that's about all I could do.
But on the field, Baugh could do everything. In 1943, he led the NFL in passing, hunting, and interceptions. A trifecta not likely to be equaled.
The one I was more proud of than any of them was a record that intercepted 4 passes in one ball game and passed for 4 touchdowns against Detroit one time.
Every time he throws the football, completes a pass, gains a yard, scores a touchdown, Baugh sets a world record.
Slinging Sammy, best remembered for that pioneering arm. In an era when the forward pass was a last resort, Baugh's air war mastery was dead aim on football's future.
We set out to make them stop our passing game first, where we could run on them. That was our philosophy. That's the whole damn story.
He was like the Peyton Manning of that era because he worked at it. He was possessed with being the best, and that's the way that he played the game. He was a competitor.
When you're on the field, you've got to feel like you're the best son of a bitches out there. That's what you're thinking. That nobody is damn better than I am.
Baugh retired successfully after the 1952 season. 2 Redskins world championships and scores of passing records, unchallenged for decades. His record of 6 NFL passing titles was tied in 1997. His 45-yard per punt average record is still on the books. Just as he had done in 1937, Baugh joined another fledgling enterprise in 1963, becoming one of 2 unanimous selections for the charter class of the Professional Football Hall of Fame. With his place on the legacy roster of the Washington Redskins and the NFL forever secured, it was time for Slinging Sammy to pass the torch. In the early 60s, this man terrorized the Redskins as starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. But when the fiery redhead was traded to Washington in 1964, this feared enemy named Christian Adolph Jurgensen III became the beloved icon, Sonny.
Sonny hurls a honey to Bobby Mitchell, and it's touchdown, Washington.
free spirit, notoriously so. Sonny Jurgensen, not fond of curfews. When he talked about a six-pack, he wasn't referring to his physique. However, his right arm was a humbling force of nature.
I haven't seen anyone who could handle a football in the manner that the redhead could. And I've often said he could hit a net at 50.
Unfortunately, in those early days, Jurgensen's talent was rarely matched by the majority of his teammates.
We didn't out-personnel anybody. We had good offensive players. We struggled defensively. And we had to outscore people most of the time.
Sonny could put points on the board. You know, we couldn't hold him too much. I mean, he'd score so fast.
During a single season in 1967, Jurgensen set league records in passing attempts, yards, and completions. But not until Vince Lombardi arrived in 1969 did Jurgensen play on a winning Redskins team.
The 18 years I played, the 1 year under him was the highlight of my career, was the highlight. And you go back and say, gosh, why couldn't I have had him for some period of time?
After Lombardi's death in 1970, George Allen brought his own brand of winning to Washington. Finally, Sonny was playing for a consistent winner. Ironically, injuries and a strained relationship with Allen saw his playing time steadily decrease. But a city's and a region's love for a red-headed quarterback, that has only grown. Jurgensen retired after the 1974 season. He had thrown for more than 32,000 yards and 255 touchdowns, led the NFL in passing 5 times, and earned one of the highest passer ratings in league history. In 1983, he entered the Hall of Fame as one of the best pure passers the game has ever seen. One of his proudest moments came years later when, for the first time, Sonny met Sammy.
Don't you think you could play in today's game?
Well, hell,
I
yeah.
think I
hell,
could.
I could. I know I could.
Jurgensen and Paul, two field generals from different eras, now forever peers, forever teammates, forever keepers of the legacy. Up next, two Hall of Famers, so different, but forever connected. A man with capital and vision. Exactly what the struggling NFL needed. In 1932, George Preston Marshall became the owner of football's newest franchise, the Boston Braves. A year later, the Braves became the Redskins, and Marshall was helping to resuscitate a dying league.
It was the summer of 1933. The National Football League had been reduced to 7 franchises. We knew something had to be done. I had talked at the coaches' meeting to the late Glenn Warner and to Dick Hanley, who was then coaching in Northwestern. They recommended rules changes.
One new rule Marshall lobbied for allowed a forward pass from anywhere behind the line of scrimmage, thus beginning the evolution of the modern passing game. After moving the Redskins to Washington in 1937, Marshall, nicknamed the Big Chief, pursued his passion for showmanship, commissioning the league's first fight song, Hail to the Redskins. Also, he assembled the NFL's first marching band, and he pioneered halftime entertainment.
Very interesting show that George Preston Marshall and Mrs. Corinne Griffith Marshall put on at halftime each and every Sunday afternoon in Washington. Certainly the finest show in professional football and one of the greatest shows in sports anywhere.
In 1950, Marshall's Redskins became the first NFL team to deliver all games through a new medium.
Come this fall, George Preston Marshall's Redskins will really be on the warpath with a great new team, with play-by-play accounts live on television, brought to you by Amoco.
Marshall's foresight created a profitable blueprint other owners copied, and that helped shape the NFL into the popularity powerhouse it is today. In 1963, recognized as one of the game's great innovators, Marshall was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Ironically, Marshall will likely be remembered most for the one change he resisted: racial integration.
He said, we're going to start playing black players when the Harlem Globetrotters start playing white players.
In 1961, Marshall's Redskins remained the last all-white team in the league. Political pressure on him was building, including the possibility of losing his lease on brand-new D.C. Stadium. Marshall blinked, softening his stance by preparing to draft All-American running back Ernie Davis in 1962. There was just one problem.
Davis said, I'm not going to play for that SOB. And he was referring to George Preston Marshall, who refused to sign a black player for many years. So the Redskins dealt the draft rights for Davis to the Browns for Bobby Mitchell.
Ready or not, Mitchell would have to be the point man for change Marshall had proudly and stubbornly resisted.
To be downtown and be denied a seat in a restaurant, to be sitting in a restaurant, a very famous restaurant, and have someone to walk by and spit on your foot. When you're the first and people get upset with you, they never forget it. But I adjusted, and after a couple of years of going through some pretty bad social problems at Washington, it turned into a great job, a great city, a great life.
And a great career. Free from the dominance of his Cleveland teammate, the legendary Jim Brown, Mitchell seized the opportunity to cast his own shadow, if he didn't outrun it first. Now at flanker position, the former Browns running back led the NFL in receptions his first year as a Redskin. After the catch, Mitchell was at his most dangerous. This four-time Pro Bowler retired in 1968 with 91 touchdowns and more than 14,000 all-purpose yards. But looking back, Mitchell wonders what could have been if race had never been an issue.
I had a lot of records. I did a lot of things. But I also know I could have been so much better if I could have just concentrated on football.
In 1983, Bobby Mitchell entered the Hall of Fame. Until 2003, he worked in the Redskins front office. Overall, he served the Redskins for more than 40 years, but he will always be linked to the controversial owner, whom he remembers differently than you might expect.
From the time I met him until he died, he never did anything to disrespect me or take from me or whatever. He gave me everything that I asked for.
There is this certainty. As a player, as a role model, Bobby Mitchell gave the Redskins and fans more than they could ever have hoped for. Up next, 5 Hall of Famers whose careers spanned 3 decades. The cornerstones of the legacy. Ray Flaherty, revered as one of the toughest players in football, was George Preston Marshall's first choice to coach his last-place 1936 Redskins.
Here comes the Washington squad, 30 strong and plenty tough. Here's Coach Red Flaherty with some of the boys, anxious to put on a good exhibition for the benefit of owner George Marshall and his wife, the former Corinne Griffith.
And Flaherty performed for Marshall, earning 2 world championships and 4 division titles over 7 years. It was far from easy with this coach enforcer. One day, when Marshall walked onto the field before a game, the owner realized that Flaherty's no-nonsense attitude played no favorites.
And he says, Ray, we got to win this game. I said, George, that's what I'm trying to do. I said, you go back up and sit in those stands, because if you don't, you take the football team, pay me off, and I'll go on home.
1942. The Skins faced the heavily favored Bears for the championship. This was Flaherty's finest hour.
They were running into a Bears team that was 11-0, great offense, great defense, the monsters of the Midway. And for the Redskins to be able to pull off a victory that day, that ranks up there with the greatest upsets of all time.
4 future Hall of Famers, including Sammy Baugh, were the heart of Flaherty's success. Also there, football's first rushing champion, Cliff Battles.
He was a Phi Beta Kappa, by the way, out of West Virginia Wesleyan, and he hit holes really hard. He had great breakaway speed. He ran for more than 200 yards. He ran for 215 yards in a 1933 game, which held as a Redskins record for nearly 60 years.
Battles was a standout receiver and a feared defensive back, but his career was cut short over a salary dispute in 1937.
Battles wanted $3,000, $250 raise. Led the league in ground gaining, and Marshall wouldn't give it to him. He quit football, Battles did, went to Columbia's backfield coach, and he was the best runner in the league.
Just as John Riggins relied on hogs, Cliff Battles relied on the sturdiest cornerstone of all, Turk Edwards.
Turk Edwards was one of the first great linemen in the NFL. His nickname was the Rock of Gibraltar. He was 6'2", 260 pounds, which was enormous for that day. He was just a great player, devastating blocker and tackler.
Edwards was awarded all NFL honors for 8 of his 9 seasons. He was the prototype for the dominant offensive lineman that would characterize future championship teams. When the Redskins won their first championship, beating the Bears in 1937, there were many heroes: Baugh, Flaherty, Battles, and receiver Wayne Milner. On the blustery, cold ice rink that was Wrigley Field, Milner played the game of his life, catching 9 passes for 160 yards, including 2 touchdowns of 55 and 78 yards. One of the last of the great two-way ends, Milner was also a star on defense, but he'll be most remembered as Sammy Baugh's favorite, most reliable target during a remarkable 7-year career. Bullet Bill Dudley got his nickname not because he was fast. He was the Bullet because he was right on target. With Pittsburgh in 1946, Dudley led the league in rushing, interceptions, and punt returns to be named league MVP. After 3 years with Detroit, he became one of the Redskins' first big-name acquisitions in 1950. In his first Washington year, Dudley reminded the Steelers just how dangerous he was, returning a punt 96 yards for a touchdown. Although in the autumn of his career in Washington, Dudley gave the game his all, thrilling fans, setting records, and leading the team in scoring every year until he retired in 1953. Flaherty, Battles, Edwards, Milner, Dudley. Along with Marshall and Baugh, they were the architects, the cornerstones, the foundation upon which the Redskins' legacy is built. Up next, the early 60s had 2 other greats ticketed for enshrinement in Pro Football's Hall of Fame. They were 2 for the ages. Sam Huff was, is, always will be a middle linebacker.
To be a great one, you have to be a little nuts. No mercy. Come through here again, I'm gonna knock your head off. This is my game. And that's the way I am. I'm a competitor.
When he played for the Giants, Huff defined the linebacker position. But when he was traded to Washington in 1964, the first position Huff found himself in was awkward.
When I played for the Giants, played against the Washington Redskins, we beat them 53-0, right? At Yankee Stadium. I got to come down here and make friends with the guys that we already beat 53-0. That's not easy.
But Huff found a fast friend in another recent D.C. transplant, Sonny Jurgensen.
Yeah, we became friends and we have remained friends over 40 years or so. All we wanted to do was find some way to make this team successful, to win.
He was the captain of the offense and I was captain of the defense. We were leaders.
Like Sonny, Huff led by example. Sam Huff retired after the 1967 season, but when Vince Lombardi came to the Redskins in '69, Huff had to come back.
I said, Coach Lombardi, you need a middle linebacker. I can be a player coach for you. I can coach the linebackers, and I can play. He said, you think you can still play? I said, I can play. I know I can play.
Huff was right, leading one of the strongest Redskins defensive units to the team's first winning season in more than a decade. In 1970, number 70 retired for good. Overall, he had 30 interceptions, 5 Pro Bowl selections, and who knows how many tackles.
I used to make 15, 20 tackles a game. I probably made more tackles than anybody in the history of the NFL. But at that time, they didn't keep track of them. They didn't care.
Though his exact number of tackles might always be questioned, never will his contribution to the game. In 1982, Sam Huff took his rightful place in Canton. You might think his linebacker mentality would mellow with age. But remember, Sam was, is, and always will be a middle linebacker.
I shouldn't be angry anymore, but I still am. I mean, I can't change.
Sam Huff's defense didn't have a monopoly on toughness. Not while Charlie Taylor played offense. Taylor was drafted as a running back in 1964. He was effective but raw. It soon became clear Taylor's style was tailor-made for a different position.
They figured the best way to use him was to put him out wide, and as soon as you got him out there, it was a mismatch for cornerbacks because he was so strong. He was probably the best and most complete receiver I ever threw to.
I'm a Southerner. You adjust to most everything.
Mentored by teammate Bobby Mitchell, Taylor quickly put his career on the Hall of Fame fast track.
A lot of people know that only 3 guys ever did that, from a running back to outside to the Hall. Only 3 guys, myself, Bobby, and Lenny Moore.
But no one faced opponents with as unique an arsenal as Charlie Taylor. He could power his way through them. He could gracefully elude them. Or he could simply outrun them.
His main strength was the speed. I never saw anybody catch Charlie from behind. And what he was really good at in that football uniform, he was faster than he was maybe, just in street clothes. That touchdown pass I threw to him in the Dallas game in '72, I thought I overthrew him. But he just sprinted for the ball and caught it, just going away.
Charlie Taylor, to me, was just phenomenal. I mean, physically, he was incredible. He'd make unbelievable catches, one-handed catches. He was one tough son of a gun.
So dominating was Taylor, some teams decided the only way to beat him was to cheat him. But nothing could stop this 8-time Pro Bowler from rewriting his team's record books. Plus, when he retired in 1977, he was the NFL's all-time receptions leader. Taylor's Redskins legacy chapter did not end there. From 1981 to 1994, he was the Redskins receivers coach, finally getting the rings that eluded him as a player.
Working with Charlie Brown, Burgess Say, Alvin Garrett, and then along come the big guy, Art Monk, Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders. They put a ring on my finger, and I love them for that,
In 1984, finally, Taylor was officially bronzed for his Hall of Fame career.
Once the induction to the Hall of Fame, then you say, well, hey, I must have been pretty good. So I look back and say, hey, I was a hell of a football player.
Up next, the beginning of a long winning era. The legacy continues. A winning tradition revived by a former head Ram.
Tragedy struck the Washington Redskins in 1970, right on the eve of our season opener. Death took Vince Lombardi away from us. and we went through a thoroughly disappointing and very frustrating season. I had to turn once again and try to go out and get Washington a winner. There was only one place to go, and that was west for George Allen.
Today starts a new era as far as the Washington Redskins are concerned.
Indeed, a new era for the Redskins. Led by the old guard.
We're going to have an all-veteran team. There would be no rookies play regular for us, and that's the way it should be. There's a guy, he's not too old. What is he, 34? One of the youngest guys in the team.
When Allen first came here in 1971, he basically incorporated the same philosophy with the Redskins as he had used with the Rams, but actually took it one step further. He traded draft picks like they were a deck of cards.
The guy that I would like to have from the Rams, I don't know whether they'd trade him, would be
it's because he just disliked rookies. He didn't trust them.
You've never had any problem fumbling, have you?
Yes, sir.
But Allen's out with the new and in with the old did not go unquestioned.
Isn't he traded for some older players? He's given up some draft choice in the future. I think he's selling off the future for the present.
What about the future? You're trading all these draft choices for this over-the-hill gang that he formed. And he said, the future is now.
Damn, you guys been here and been through the losing years, and now we want to win.
That future looked bright in 1972 as Allen's Redskins battered the Cowboys for the NFC title. For now, Allen's critics were silenced by a revitalized fan base.
Well, it's terrific to have a winning team in some sport. I'm a native Washingtonian and can't remember ever having a winning team in anything.
I think their attitude is different. I think they've got a win fixation. Coach Allen has inspired these men, and I really think that they've got the right attitude.
George Allen, a winner in ways a scoreboard could not measure. He won as a motivator.
Just remember this, 40 men together can't lose, okay?
He won as an innovator.
He created the nickel defense. The special teams became a priority.
He won as a leader. Allen's players followed him like the band of zealots they were. If victory was their religion, their temple was a winning locker room.
Let's do this. Let's have 3 cheers for the Redskins. Hip, hip.
I always thought it was corny, but it was kind of fun. When you're in that locker room and you won, and you just got caught up in it.
This is great. Greatest thing in the world. God dang, it's great to be a Redskin.
Hey, listen up. Gang, here's a ball for a guy that works real hard, and he's been in a lot of these games before, but it took a lot of cast-offs, a bunch of Redskins, and a hell of a good group of guys to get him his second one, Coach. Go down!
Allen's 12-year head coaching career ended in 1978 without a single losing season. Winning may have been the only thing to Lombardi. For Allen, it meant even more.
Our day. We can't let ourselves down. We can't let them down.
Winning and losing was life and death as far as he was concerned. There's a quote, he said, every time you lose, you die a little bit, and every time you win, you're reborn.
2002, Allen's legacy was reborn with his posthumous induction into the Hall of Fame. His over-the-hill gang never quite reached the mountaintop, but Allen made Washington winners again, and championships would follow. One other Allen move, 1973. He traded 5 players to the Houston Oilers for Ken Houston. This all-pro safety did not receive the warmest of welcomes.
They didn't have any respect for the AFC. And so a lot of those guys probably, they had heard of the Oilers, but I didn't mean anything to them at all, okay? What they knew was they had lost a lot of teammates. And so how does one guy replace 5 guys?
But on a Monday night against Dallas, Houston showed his worth with a game-saving fourth down tackle.
They were driving to go in for a touchdown, and I actually overran the play. And it wasn't a huge tackle, but it was Walt Garrison, and I caught him, and I wouldn't let him put his feet down.
To stop Walt Garrison on the 2-yard line was some feat. I mean, you had to be really strong to do that.
Kenny was strong and he was vicious. So when I seen him actually get his hands around Garrison, I knew it was all over.
For the next 8 years, Houston punished the Cowboys and anyone else who had the nerve to be carrying a football.
It's all about the football. If you don't touch that football, I promise you I'll never touch it. But if you touch that football, you become a part of the game. It belongs to me.
Kenny Houston, he has played in 10 consecutive Pro Bowls, and he holds about all the pass interception records in the NFL.
In 1986, Ken Houston entered the Hall of Fame, a testament to his brilliant 14-year career, a testament to the foresight of the coach who brought him home.
I enjoyed playing for the Oilers, but the Redskins gave you something special, and I feel honored for that.
A bedrock tradition established, and some additional elements build championships in the years to follow. Next on The Legacy. When Joe Gibbs became the Redskins head coach in 1981, he knew the bottom line evidence on which he'd be judged.
Your successes in this league are marked in wins, and I think we're going to have to win to be successful. And I would be kidding anybody if I said any differently. So if I screw this up, it's going to be me doing it.
After an 0-5 start, it looked like judgment would be swift. But that O was for opportunity, a chance for Gibbs to grow his greatest strength, the ability to adjust.
We went away from 2 backs. We were trying to run 2 backs with Riggins and Metcalf in the backfield. We went to 1 back. So we made some technical decisions. We made personnel decisions. And then I had a chance to study a lot of people around me. And I actually said that I think 0-5 drove us to get the string of wins that we got.
Joe was a genius. He was like the nutty professor. He had those big frog glasses, and he'd sit there and he'd come up with plays. And Joe just kept giving us more and more and more.
In 1982, Gibbs took the Redskins to their first Super Bowl title, and a celebration Washington had wanted for 40 years.
People were going nuts, and it was just an outpouring by the whole city. Then we had the big platform there. We all walked up holding the trophy and all that kind of stuff. It's just one of those rare things, and we finally got a Super Bowl victory.
Before his first retirement, Gibbs would lead 2 more championship parades, the first coach to win 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
It tells you one thing about Joe Gibbs. He's able to make changes to whatever talent that he has.
It's a long way from 0-5 to Canton, but in 1996, with the 3rd highest winning percentage in NFL history, Joe Gibbs completed the journey, a journey with the Redskins far from over.
I'd just like to introduce the head coach and team president of the Washington Redskins, Joe Gibbs.
Second tour of duty. Gibbs makes the Redskins contenders again. But December 2007 may have been the finest month of his coaching career. The Redskins were on the brink of collapse, fragile after the murder of extraordinarily talented teammate Sean Taylor. With an owner at his side every step of the way, Joe Gibbs held the Redskins together. He led them on an inspiring run into the postseason.
If you talk about the strengths of Joe Gibbs, his choice of people, both as coaches and players, would, in my opinion, be his strength. He knows how to put the right kind of people together. He knows how to put a chemistry together.
From his first win in 1981 to his last in 2007, Gibbs left more than his mark on the Redskins. Joe Gibbs became the standard by which all Redskin coaches will be measured and judged.
Hey, let's win. Hey, let's win with style, man. Win with style. Great job. Hey, proud of all of you. Proud of all of you, man.
John Riggins and Joe Gibbs. hard to find two more opposite personalities. But in 1982, with the postseason getting close, Riggins approached Gibbs with a demand that would fuse their destinies forever.
Give me the ball and everything's going to be okay.
The motivation behind Riggins' request, one of life's undeniable factors.
I was, 33, 34 years old, and I saw opportunity. I said, you know, this is all out here for me now, and I'm going to be damned if I'm going to sit back and be passive about this.
True to his Hall of Fame pedigree, Gibbs recognized the power of the moment.
Great athletes have an unusual timing on things. Riggo had that. We just loaded the wagon, let John carry it.
Now known as the Diesel, Riggins carried the Redskins championship payload through the playoffs, smashing every barricade in his path.
I had absolutely the best seat in the house. I could turn around and hand the ball to JR and watch the holes open, watch him go through, watch guys try and tackle him.
But in Super Bowl 17, one last barricade stood between him and a ring.
Crank up that Diesel.
70 chip on white, ready?
Shot! Yellow 41!
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel.
Riggins. He's going to go all the way, unless Blackwood can catch him, and he can't. The announcement now is official, the most valuable player of Super Bowl 17, John Riggins.
Surprisingly, this dream's fulfillment did not satisfy Riggins. It re-energized him. In 1983, he posted his most successful year. He and the Hogs attacked opponents with brutal simplicity.
We basically are going to line up here and see if you can stop us. We're not going to try to use finesse. We're going to beat you down, and we're going to get this ball in the end zone, or we're going to get this first down.
In '83, Riggins put the ball in the end zone for an all-time record 24 times. The Bower was now the Bowie, whose final curtain call came in 1985, with Riggins leaving the game as the fifth leading rusher of all time. In 1992, the Diesel refueled and delivered one last carry. Destination, Canton, Ohio, and his legacy of a Hall of Fame career. The crowning jewel of his legacy will always be that magical Super Bowl night when the power back home in Washington, D.C. wore the majesty of number 44 in Pasadena.
Well, I'm very happy, and at least for tonight, Ron's the president, but I'm the king.
Up next, make way for two more warriors of the legacy. The NFL's fastest man. He earned that nickname Monday night in 1983. Tony Dorsett smashing into the Redskins secondary with nothing but end zone ahead of him. But behind him, rookie Darrell Green.
I saw Darrell swoop across the field like Tony Dorsett was standing still. We all knew Tony Dorsett was really fast. That really opened the people's eyes up to, okay, this Darrell Green kid is a player.
2-2-0, buddy. Make you run fast.
It wasn't an event to chase Tony Dorsett down for me. I mean, I always was a runner. I could run, and that was a part of the game, part of my job. I was just doing what I do.
For the next 20 years, this seven-time Pro Bowler proved heart and fight are taller than height. Green's ability, so impressive. His longevity, more so. Season after season, 295 games. This ageless wonder shut down generations of top receivers. He did the same intercepting quarterbacks. He ran down all challengers, growling at their heels, earning his mythical fastest man title. And fans witnessed some of the most memorable moments in Redskins history. When Green was voted one of the 70 greatest Redskins of all time in 2002, he was still wearing the uniform.
Green, you one of the 70 greatest and you still playing.
At season's end, Green would finally put away number 28. In 2008, Green outran his dreams, officially racing into the Hall of Fame as a unanimous first ballot inductee.
Hall of Fame means to me, you are one of the greatest players to have played your position. And because I didn't proclaim that myself, I embrace it fully.
One thing Darrell Green will never outrun: the adoration of grateful fans whose memories make indelible the NFL's fastest man. Art Monk was not a master of the soundbite. But on the football field, no one moved the chains better.
Art Monk found his niche with the Washington Redskins. His conversions of third downs, his ability to run a simple play called dodge. He'd run out on an angle, he could either take it to the flat or cut it up into the middle. His feel for the game, his physical toughness blocking. Those are all things that Art Monk did the best.
I just tried to take advantage of every opportunity every time I got on the field as much as possible, and that just ended up to be, 16-year ride.
1984, one of that ride's greatest thrills, Monk making his 102nd catch of the season, an all-time record. For the next 8 years, he pounded, drilled, etched his name into NFL history, making the tough catch, the graceful catch, the must-have catch. Then 1992, the catch no one had ever made, number 820.
Well, you can say to your friends, you saw it live. The man who's caught more passes than any player who's ever played the game.
Before retiring in 1995, Monk set his third all-time record, 183 consecutive games with a reception. There was one more record reception. In 2008, a grand finale to his long overdue trip to Canton, Monk received a crescendo, the longest ovation in Hall of Fame history. This outpouring, confirmation of Monk's deep value, not just for statistics, but for how he played the game with quiet dignity, valuing actions over words, substance over style.
I was just proud to wear the burgundy and gold, to have those feathers on my helmet, and I did everything in my power to make sure that we tried to win every game. The fact is, I gave it all I had.
Art Monk, Darrell Green. Latest but not the last to join the elite ranks of the Redskins' legacy. These men are ultimate measures of gridiron greatness. They are keepers of the legacy. We have been and always will be together. Generations representing one cause, one family, whose colors are burgundy and gold. Hail to the legacy. It lives. It marches on.